it's Jemma here and I'm at home and it is chucking it down outside. It is really miserable and dreary, and so I thought that today I would bake something really cute and colourful to brighten up my day and hopefully brighten up your day as well, regardless of the rain. And it is going to be mini ombre cakes, so let's go. These little ombre cakes are really, really good for things like weddings or parties, just a bit different if you wanted to have a cake rather than have one big cake, making little individual ones for your guests. It's really, really cute and it's very simple and it's basically a vanilla sponge. And I should say also that you can make these any colour you like. I'm going to do blue because I think that has a really good impact, and as usual I'm going to be using colour paste. And this is Ice Blue and it's by Sugar Flare. It's a really good brand and it's very, very concentrated, which is why I like to use it. So I'm going to get my colours ready. I'm going to do 4 colours. My 4 sponges layers is going to be blank and then light blue, slightly darker blue, and then slightly darker blue from that. So I've got my 4 bowls here and I'm going to start by putting 2 teaspoons of whole milk, which I've already put about a teaspoon of vanilla extract in. And I'm going to get a little chopstick and I'm going to start colouring, and I'm going to go for the lightest blue first. So I'm just going to dip the end of my chopstick in, hardly at all, to get a really nice light blue. So once I've done the first lightest blue, I'm going to move on to the next ones, just increasing the amount of food colouring that I put in so that I've got a nice kind of gradient. Now I'm going to get on with making the cake batter, and I'm going to start with 250 grams of soft unsalted butter. And to that I'm going to add 250 grams of caster sugar. And I'm just going to beat that together on a medium to high speed for about 5 minutes until it's gone really pale and fluffy. So my butter and sugar is nice and creamy and fluffy, and I've just turned my mixer down to the minimum speed because I'm going to add the eggs and I don't want it all flying all over the place. I've got 4 large free-range eggs which I'm going to add one at a time, and I'm going to crack them into a bowl first just because it's a lot easier to put them in that way. Okay, so that's all of my eggs in. Just get rid of this paddle. And as you can see, the consistency is really sort of silky and light and whipped. So now it's ready to have the flour put in, and I'm going to sieve that directly into the bowl just to give it a bit of extra lightness. And I've got 250 grams of self-raising flour. So I'm just going to put that back on my mixer and fold that in really slowly. And my mixer has a really handy low setting to do this folding, but if you don't have a mixer or your mixer doesn't have a low setting, you can do this by hand just using a big metal spoon or even just a spatula is fine. So now that that's all mixed through, I'm just going to give it one last round with my spatula just to make sure everything's thoroughly mixed, and it is. So now it's time to distribute it between these 4 bowls, and I want to do that as evenly as possible because I'm using the same size tins. So I've got my scales here, and I'm going to just start with the blank colour sponge, and I'm going to put about 200 grams in. I think roughly overall I've probably got about 900 grams to a kilo of batter, so I'm just going to roughly eyeball it for now and then adjust each bowl accordingly so I end up with the same amount in each one. So now I've got 200 grams in each of my bowls, and I've only got a very small amount of batter left, so it's going to be a lot easier for me to distribute that evenly between the 4 bowls. So now I've got an even amount in each of my bowls, and I just need to mix the milk through the batter, being very, very careful not to beat any of the air out. So I'm going to use a small spoon and just gently fold it. all my colours are really nicely mixed in, so it's time to put them in the tins. And I've got 7-inch round tins here, which I've greased and lined the bottoms of. This amount will work for 6-inch tins. They'd just be a little bit fatter, but if you've got anything bigger than 7-inch, like an 8-inch or a 10-inch, it's going to be far too thin, so you might want to bump up your quantities. But I'm just going to dump all my batter into each of my tins and level it out with a palette knife. So all my tins are ready, so now it's time to bake them, and I'm going to bake them all at 180 degrees C for 20 to 25 minutes, or until a skewer comes out clean when you poke them each in the middle. My cakes are out of the oven and they're going to just cool down in their tins there. Meanwhile, I'm going to get on with making some vanilla buttercream, and I have 200 grams of soft unsalted butter, which I'm just going to beat until it's pale. And once the butter's ready, it's time to add the sugar, and I've got 450 grams of icing sugar, which I've already sifted. I'm going to put it in 2 stages, beating really well after each stage. Right, that's had a few minutes beating with the sugar in it, so I'm going to add some milk now, and I've got 3 tablespoons of milk, and I've put half a teaspoon of vanilla extract in. I'm just going to pour that in and add a little bit more if I need to, if I feel like it's a bit stiff. Right, that's ready. It didn't need any more milk. It's looking really yummy, but I'm just going to put that to one side and get my cakes ready. And I'm going to just take the cakes out of the cake tins and just wait until they're completely cool, and then we're going to get on with the next bit. Now, because of the caramelisation that happens on cake, we've got a slightly brown top and sides, which is not the kind of look we're going for. We want nice bright colours. So I'm going to start off by just trimming the tops off of these guys, and first of all to make sure that they're level, and second of all to get rid of that murky colour. Look at that colour! It's so much brighter than that, so definitely worth taking that off. And as you saw, I just used a bread knife for that, just a regular serrated knife. Quite often when I'm at work, I use a cake leveler, which are really, really handy, but just use whatever you have, and if you are using a knife, be really careful with your fingers. So just make sure you do all of those 4, and then we'll get on with the next bit. And now it's time to make them mini, and I'm going to be using a cookie cutter, just a nice round cookie cutter, and I reckon I can get about 4 circles out of each of these layers, and I'm just going to put them onto this tray and get them ready for decoration. So the bottoms of my rounds are a little bit caramelised, so I'm just going to take that off just quickly with my knife. Now the secret to a really, really pretty ombre cake is to keep it nice and clean. So any brown bits like that, it's really important to get them off if you can see them. And now I'm going to clear the decks a little bit, get rid of my scraps, and if you want to keep those to make cake pops with or something, just whack them in a bag and stick them in the freezer, and then you can bring them out when you need them. But I'm just going to clear them up for now so that I can have a nice clean surface for decorating. Now I've got my buttercream all ready to go in a piping bag, and the reason I'm using a piping bag rather than spreading it on with a palette knife is because these are so small and delicate. If you start trying to be heavy-handed with a palette knife, it's likely that they're going to fall apart. So this way, minimal contact and maximum awesomeness. So I'm going to start with the brightest colour on the bottom. Just put that on a little plate. And I've got a small round tip, and I'm just going to go around the whole thing with little blobs. Once I've gone around the edge, I'm going to fill in the hole as well. And then starting with the next layer, I'm just going to keep going until I reach the top. And once you put the top layer on, you then need to finish it, and I'm just going to put pretty little globs all over the top, and then it's done. And they're done. And don't they look adorable? So cute, perfect for weddings and parties and things. Or just, you know, as a treat for your mates, for a dinner party. Well, thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed making it, and I'm gonna really enjoy giving these to 3 or, well, maybe 4 lucky people, but I do kind of want one myself. And if you do make this, or you make anything for my channel, then please do hashtag Cupcake Jemma on Twitter and Instagram. And speaking of Instagram, if you haven't already checked out our Crumbs and Doilies Instagram feed, then go and follow us, because it is a wash with amazing cupcake and cake pictures and things we get up to in the shop. And also you can follow me at Cupcake Jemma, and there you will find pictures of things that I'm up to, things that I'm eating, and maybe the odd selfie or picture of my dog. So if you want to do that, give us a follow, and I'll be back next week with another recipe video, so I'll see you then. Bye!